It's our second show. Two brothers just talking. I'm Glenn.
I'm Gary.
And we're going to start this show. My brother reminded me of something I used to talk about in the 80s. And then I found this information on a bathroom wall, but it has so much importance in terms of how we perceive life. And it goes something like this. He who knows and knows that he knows is a wise man. Follow him. He who knows and knows not that he knows is asleep. Awaken him. But he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is asleep. Shun him. When I first heard that, it instilled something, and this was a bathroom wall. And I think I read that, I saw that when I was like 28 years old. I'm 64 now. So it stuck with me because it has so much value in terms of how we see ourselves, unfortunately, good or bad. And my brother and I was talking before we went on the air about how people look at their lives, and he had a conversation with our mother talking about how the past shapes our future. And it does shape our future, but we can determine exactly how it shapes that. And I think he had a conversation he was sharing with me. What were you talking about that?
I was talking about how the past does not define your future. It's a part of it, and it's necessary for us to acknowledge it. And one of the problems I see with most people nowadays is that they don't acknowledge their past. Oh, they may acknowledge the mistakes. Okay, the mistakes are fine. We're human beings. We're prone to mistakes. However, it's the acknowledgement of the whole past that makes you whole in the future. You can't sit up here and just say, well, there are people who advocate responsibility, who say that it wasn't my fault. These things happened, but it was the other guy's fault. And those are the people who worry me.
You know, what's interesting about that, the past, how we perceive, that's our perception. How we perceive the past kind of defines how we move forward. And sometimes people can get stuck about certain things that have happened and it doesn't release them. One of the things that's key to freeing yourself from the past is learning how to not just forgive others in your life, but learn how to forgive yourself, because we're not perfect. So we do make mistakes. So how we learn from those mistakes kind of like defines what we do next. Because if I think whole idea about becoming perfect is learning mistakes so you don't repeat those mistakes, which leads to a level of perfection in your life by learning from your mistakes. You can't learn from the things that you do right in life, but you can learn from the things that you've done wrong.
Yeah, true that. But see, the problem is that we're so afraid that of our mistakes that we forget to learn from them. You see, we'll say, I've met so many guys when I was coming up that used to do drugs and things like that, and they used to say, God, if I make it till tomorrow, I'll never do it again. And the first thing they did when they woke up was do the same things. So we're afraid that if we learn from our mistakes, that we have nothing left. In other words, we're so as human beings, we're so inadequate that we have nothing to bring to the table. And I'm here to tell you, brothers and sisters, we have a lot to bring to the table as human beings, as people, self-aware human beings. And that's the point I'm trying to raise today.
I think that statement where I open up with, when we talk about knowing and not knowing, it's actually about self. How well do we know ourselves from what we've learned? So if you know and know that you know about self, then there's wisdom.
Right.
But if you know and you don't know and someone teaches you, then someone's awakening the self inside of you that can kind of defines what you're going to be in life. But if you're walking around with your head in the sand, or you're spouting knowledge about something that you truly don't know anything about, and you don't know that you know anything about, that's when you're lost. And then and those people, not only they're lost, they don't want to learn. And somehow, you know what? There's a truth, then there is a truth.
The truth.
The truth.
I know a person right now, I'm not calling any names, but I know a person right now whose whole problem is self-esteem. They don't believe in themselves. And that's a sad state of being, because the only person you're ever going to have in this life is yourself. Okay, so God's gift to you is the expiration of self. Okay, He gives you the message. He gives you the way to go. Now it's like the fork in the road. There's many which ways you can go. It's up to you to choose. Now I've chosen some bad forks. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I've chosen some bad ways, but I've always found myself home because I had the confidence in myself to know right from wrong, to know the difference between doing good and doing bad. And that's the bottom line. The bottom line is that we have to recognize that for every mistake we make, there is a solution. There is a place to come back to, and that's the Father.
I totally agree. I mean, I did a sermon say if you don't stand for something, you go for anything.
For real.
And I think it goes back to you're going about self. I think our biggest fear, we talked about that on the last show about the enemy. I think our biggest fear is ourselves in relation to the world, other people. Sometimes we have a difficult, like you were talking about before, finding that place in society. Like, where do I fit?
Right.
How do I fit in this? And is how I think. Does it line up with anything? Sometimes you feel like you're out of step with the rest of the world. But that necessarily is not a bad thing. All right? You can integrate yourself into the world, but you have to present it in a way that the world can understand. But first of all, you have to understand self first and relationship to that drum, that beat that you're in.
You're going to a book I used to remember called A Different Drummer. Now, I don't remember the exact quote, but it basically says, don't laugh at your brother because he walks a different walk. And maybe maybe that he hears the sound of a different drummer. Okay? And what I want to tell people today is that listen to that drummer in your head. Listen to that drummer in your heart. Listen to that which moves you. Listen to that beat that makes you groove in your head. Okay? Those are the real things. The problem is we're so busy listening to somebody else. Somebody else is always dictating terms. Okay? But we never dictate terms to ourselves. Okay? We listen, we follow. Be a leader. I mean, establish what you are, who you are, how you are. Okay? And then even if you're wrong, at least you had a position.
I think why people don't do it, and this is just my assessment of it, there's a responsibility that goes with thinking for yourself.
And we like to abdicate.
Immediate. Well, I'm this way because of mommy. I'm this way because of daddy. I'm this way because of my spouse. Or my children have dictated me my behavior. The bottom line is like what you're saying is that you are responsible for what you think. And you're responsible for your action. It's easy to abdicate to someone else that you don't need to be responsible. The bottom line is that you are. You're even responsible for not allowing things like that happening because you have responsibility to self, to have the knowledge of self, to not only help yourself, but to help others, which is also in the Bible.
Yeah, but most domestic violence is about responsibility. When a man beats on a woman and he tells her after all this violence is over, it was your fault. What is he doing? He's abdicating responsibility. He wants to shift the blame from himself and the kind of person that he is to the kind of person that you are. Well, the problem is that you're accepting this responsibility and it's not yours. Okay? I mean, stand up, grow up. Yeah. Don't allow yourself to be victimized because the victimer, what's the word I'm looking for?
The victimer.
Yeah, the victimer says that you should be victimized. That's a damn shame.
Yeah, but see, well, in that arena that you're talking about, I think the victim and the victimizer, I think they're both the same, is learned behavior.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So somewhere in their lives, they've seen those roles played out, and unfortunately, they've embraced those roles negatively, okay, in terms of how they relate to someone else and from the opposite sex. But it doesn't even have to be the opposite sex. You know what I mean? We talked about
same sex.
Yeah, we talked about the aspect of bullying. It's the same thing. Yeah. When you have what I call a healthy feel about yourself, healthy self-esteem, not braggadocio, because that's phony too. But if you have a healthy self-esteem of yourself, you don't allow certain things to happen to you. And you don't do things to hurt other people. People with healthy self-esteem want to lift people up. Those people who want to put people down are people with low self-esteem themselves, and therefore instead of lifting people up, they want to bring them down less than what they believe they are to make themselves feel good.
Yeah, they have a need to feel whole. And the only way they can feel whole is destroying someone else.
And you know, the interesting part about that, Gary, is that what they think makes them whole doesn't. Actually, it really fractures them even more.
True that. And it's a sad thing because they will never see it. There are certain people on this planet who will never see themselves for what they are. Okay? There are abusers, there are users, there are people who go out here every day and they hurt, and they don't see the hurt. All they see is what they can get out of it. Okay? How they get it out of it. All right? How they make whatever they want, whatever makes them whole that moment. You know, and there's no truth in it, but it's what they need. And what we have to start doing as human beings is finding like-minded people and getting our blessings from like-minded people, not from people who are not offering anything to the table. The first line when my brother first talked was to shun them. Well, shun them. Okay? Leave these people alone. They have nothing good for you. Okay? They have no hope. They have no dreams. Everything is about destroying your dream.
Okay, that being the case, that's good advice. But I think basically we need to also understand what is the attraction. Because in order for certain, remember I was talking about a story I read about Nina Simone?
Yeah, Bad Boys.
Yeah. What is the attraction that allows you to be drawn into people like that in your life, and deep down inside that on the long haul, okay, that is not good for you? And I believe the answer is the immediate gratification. We can't see beyond the scope of what we want immediately, not thinking what could cause. For example, you're attracted to a man and a woman, all right? We get in a situation where you have sex,
Yeah.
all right? Unprotected sex, and then guess what? Now there's a child. Neither one of you are in a position to take the responsibility of self, much less a child, but that the child does now exist. Now you see each other for what you really are. You do, other than the physical compatibility. Now there's nothing else because you're compatible. He doesn't want the responsibility. She has to take the responsibility because the child is there, and that's what you're talking about. But people need to be taught how to love themselves sincerely from the inside out. And when they learn that, their attractions change.
My brother, but let's not be so hard on the brothers, because there are brothers out here.
I just use that as an example.
I understand that. But I'm just saying I want to make it so we hear it on this recording right here that there are brothers out here responsible too. What I'm saying is that we have to learn as human beings to treat each other with the same kind of respect that we want from that person. Okay? The problem is that I can hurt you, but damn if you hurt me back. Okay? Don't hurt me back, because then I'm going to do 7 times 7. And that's what the problem. The problem is that we want something that we are unable to give.
Well, if you respect self, then you respect others.
If you respect self, you would do that. How about the guy who doesn't respect self?
Well, then that's the problem. I think that's what we're talking about now, is because here's the problem. They know not and know not that you know not, and you're talking about to shun them, because if you're willing to share with someone that they're lost, all right, and we've all been lost at one point in our lives. Even the most famous people at one time, there was a direction, like you talked about the fork of the road.
Yeah.
All right, so we've all been there. But if you get to the point of the fork in the road where you're being guided in a direction that's going to be uplifting not only to yourself but other people around you, and you still choose, that's what you're talking about,
yeah.
You still choose to believe that what you want to do is what you're going to do, even though there's been information to you knowing that this path is not the way to go. For example, and I thought about this earlier, And when you look talking about people who want to create wealth, and you look at these young men and women who sell drugs,